Good day, everyone. In our previous topic, we had discussed compounding, no? Generally interest or an interest rate. Now, based on our discussion, we have two types of interest: the simple and the compound interest. Now, in a simple interest, a borrowed amount that will be paid at a certain period or certain number of months or years. And when you pay your that borrowed amount, there will be an interest, placed on that. So simple interest. So let's say you buy. One good example of simple interest is kind of 5-6. No, when you borrowed 500, and on the time that you are required to pay, you will be paying 600. So that's approximately 20% simple interest. The second type of interest is the compound interest. The difference is that within a single year, there might be one or more interest placed on a borrowed amount. So we define compound interest as an interest on top of an interest. So say for example, if you borrowed an amount and promised to pay it probably 1 year after, and it said based on your agreement there will be 10% compounding, 10% which is compounded every month, or which have monthly compounding. Therefore, your borrowed amount will be placed with an interest which is there will be an interest per month. Now, in the first month, there will be an interest placed on the borrowed amount, then the sum of which, including the interest, will be placed with another interest on the second month. So, when you at the time that you would pay the borrowed amount, so it would have much greater value. So, another an example of that would be for investment. Time deposit. If you are familiar with time deposit, commonly time deposits ranges from 5 to 10 years, which means when you invest an amount today, after 5 years, you can get your invested amount with interest placed on them. Commonly 4 to 8% per annum, meaning 8% per year. So every year there will be interest placed on your invested amount. So that's compound and simple interest. Now, however, it's not always the case that you would be paying a borrowed amount in bulk. So for example, you would borrow an amount today and you would be paying it next year in bulk, or we call it accumulated. It's not always the case. There will be cases wherein you will be paying it every month. Just like for example, if you are familiar with cash loans, if you borrow 10,000, you might have an agreement that you would be paying your borrowed amount every month. An example also is kanang sa MCOR. Like for example, ngutang ka og a computer set. So you based on the agreement, imo nang bayaran ang imong giutang within 3 years, and you would be paying it every month. So that's an example. We cannot use simple or compound interest with that. So that is actually an example of annuity. Annuity, another term for annuity, when we specifically talk with or deal with debt or utang, we call it amortization. Later we will discuss that one. So this one, amortization. So it is a method of repaying a debt, the principal included, and also the interest, and commonly by a series of equal payments at equal intervals. So based on our example, if you borrowed or say loan something, say a commodity, for example a computer set, and you promise to pay it within, not after, but within 3 years, but monthly. So managita og monthly, pila man na imong monthly amortization. So that is because pila ang imong ibayad every month. No, that's a series of equal payments at equal interval for a certain loan or certain debt. Then the lender, say for example ang MCOR, will be giving you an amortization schedule. You will see there the present worth or the loan amount. Not for example, for a computer set, so pila ang tagpila ang usa ka computer set. Then the interest rate. You have to take note here that if this is I, no, if this is I is equal to R over M. However, we will use a nominal rate of interest for this one. So we will be placing the nominal rate of interest. Then you have the loan periods, meaning this is, we can say this is the number of years. No, we will change it to the number of years. So this would be in terms of years. So how many years will you be paying the certain loan? Then you have number of payments per year. So let's say for example, if you have to pay every month, so the number of payments per year will be equal to 12. So this would be equal to the number of compounding. No, this is our M. So again, loan amount is P, interest rate, we will use R here. But remember R, but remember we still have to calculate I, the lowercase I, which is R over M. Then you have the payment type. In the payment type, this is actually the type of annuity. So we can say every end of the period, a certain period, or at the beginning, or some periods later. So we will discuss the different types of annuity later. Then the number of payments, this is the total number of payments, that is equal to the number of payments per year times the loan period. So this is in terms of years, so this will be our N. Okay, let me just write here. And so our number of payments will be M times N. So if you would be if the loan period is 3, if the number of years is 3, so that's 3 times 12, you will have 36. Then the total payments, this one will be the sum of all the payments here. Now from 1 up to N, meaning how many periods. If compounding is not equal to 1, so this will be 1 up to M times N. So atong basihan ani is the number of payments. So the number of periods is actually the number of payments. This will be calculated. So again, these are the payments which will be done every year. So muna nga to ang gitawag annuity. So this is our A. Later on, we will be discussing the different variables. Then you have the interest, that is equal to I. If you would recall, the interest is equal to P times I times N. However, since we are dealing with every period, so our N is equal to 1, so what will be left is P times I. And again, recall or remember that our I, okay, our lowercase I is equal to R over M. So this is the small letter I. Then you have the principal paid. Now the principal paid will be the annuity minus your I. And the balance here would be the previous balance minus this one, the principal paid. So if if you have, say for example, 15,000 borrowed amount, then whichever value of your principal paid, so at the end of the period, you just have to subtract the two. Okay, that's the content of an amortization schedule. Now let's define annuity. So as you can, based on our definition of an amortization, it's a payment of a certain debt. In general, that's under annuity. Now an annuity can be a payment of a debt, or it can be an inflow, no, for a certain invested amount. So, so when you invest a certain amount, and you will be getting, say for example, every month out from your invested amount, so that's a type of annuity. Amortization is also another type of annuity. Recall the symbols that we have used. Now P, we are familiar with P, the present value of your, or the present amount, the principal amount. F is the accumulated amount, or the future worth of that annuity, or the present value. A is the annuity, or the series of equal amounts. N is the number of interest periods. Now again, that is when we deal with yearly and yearly compounding. However, when the compounding is more than one, no, it's not per year, but rather, say for example, per month or every quarter, so that would be M times N. Then I is the interest rate, but recall that I is equal to R over M. So kung ma-involve na gani si compounding, naa na gina-permi si M. So this is M times N, then R over M. Recall the cash flow diagram that we have discussed in compound interest. Now there are again two viewpoints. One is the lender's viewpoint. The second one is the borrower's viewpoint. This is if in case of an amount lended or amount invested. There will be cases wherein ato lang kwaon ng pila may equivalent nga present worth. So that would mean that you will have the same direction for an arrow, because nawala man niya giingon si lender or si borrower's nga viewpoint. So if moingon lang siya nga unsa ka equivalent niya nga value, so you will have the same arrow direction. So remember all of those. Those are the fundamental topics, or fundamental the things that you need to know before we proceed to with these types of annuity. If you do not if you still have difficulty in understanding them, review first the definitions before you proceed this one. So pause this video first, no, or play it back, no, rewind, no, go to the part wherein dili wala pa kayo nasabtan before you proceed with these types of annuity, because there are actually 4 types of annuity. First is ordinary, second is annuity due, third is deferred, and the fourth is perpetuity. So again, annuity is a series of equal payments, no, at equal interval or equal periods. So we have 4 types: ordinary, annuity due, deferred annuity, and perpetuity. So here's a cash flow example of an ordinary annuity. As you can see, if you had a borrowed amount, so if this is the lender's viewpoint, so he allowed somebody to borrow an amount, and that's P, and that someone promised to pay it every on an equal interval or an equal interval of period. So kanang equal payments are the annuities. Then we can convert this annuity into a lump sum, into an accumulated amount, and we call it F, or the future amount, or the accumulated amount. So again, we can convert this annuity to a lump sum. Or you can also convert your present amount to an F. Okay. In the viewpoint of an investor, No? Say for example, nag-invest ka og an amount every, say if this is in terms of year, so in every year nag-invest ka og amount, you can calculate pila man ang accumulated, no? Kung imo siyang i-withdraw at a certain year, say for example after 10 years, pila ka high worth sa imong amount, you can calculate it using annuity, no? Siguro instead of, if you want, instead of every year siya nimo makuha ang imong interest, no, ang imong tubo sa imong gi-invest, you can convert it into a lump sum. So pwede na siya. So that's an example of ordinary annuity. So again, this is the cash equivalent cash flow diagram or example for an ordinary annuity. Here's an example of an amortization schedule using ordinary annuity. Based from here, we can analyze this one as the loan amount is 15,000. The nominal rate of interest is 15%. No, that's 0.15. And the borrower will be paying it within 2 years. But the number of payment per year is 2, which means this is our M. This will be our N, this is our R, and this is our P. And the payment type is done at the end of each year. Now you have to take note of this payment type. For ordinary annuity, that will be the definition is actually presented. Will be presented later on together with its formula. Though before we will discuss the formula, to sa tanong unsay itsura. What's the concept behind these different types of annuity? Now remember, you have to take note that payment type for ordinary annuity is done every end of each period. So if these are in terms of semi-annual na payment, so meaning the first period is the first 6 months. So meaning this is in terms of months. If we will be discussing it or presenting this in terms of months, so this is at the end of the 6 months, meaning at the end of the 6 months mabayad siya ani, no, for this certain utang. Then at the end of the first year, so inig ika 12 months na kanina po yung bayaran. Then inig ka 1.5, that's 18, no, 18th month, so kanina po yung bayaran. And on the second year, which is the 24th month, no, that's kanina po yung bayaran. So mo ni ang imong series or ang imong equal payments. Then we can calculate kung pila man giday interest sa imuhang sa tanan nimo utang. Kung imuhang i-calculate ang total interest, so tagsa-tagsaon nimo, you have there during the first period, ang tubo niya is kani 1125. So meaning ang imo ra gid nabayaran sa imong utang is only 3,353. So that's 3,353. So this is your utang, 15,000. Now then, to get the balance after the end of the first period, so to get your balance, you subtract 15,000 by 3,353, which means after the first period, after 6 years, ang imong utang nga panabayaran is 11,646.49. Then after, at the end of the 12th month, nagbayad na po ka og 4,478. By the way, remember that interest is P times I. Now, the principal amount at the beginning of each year, that's P times the rate of interest. And I is equal to R over M. That's 0.15 divided by 2. So, pila man na siya? That's 7.5% or 0.075. So, mo yung imong i-multiply ni principal amount to get 1,125. Then, on the next year, so kanina po si 11,646.49 will be multiplied by 0.75. So, you will get 870.49. And based on that, so isubtract nimo si payment, so your annuity, subtract the annuity by the interest. So ang imong nabayaran sa imong utang is now 3,605. Then again, subtract the previous balance with this principal paid. So you will now have 8,041.46. Di mo bayad na po ka, multiply it by the I, this one. So mo na ang interest niya. So ang imo na bayaran sa imong utang na is 3,875 until at the end of the last period, you will have a zero balance. Ito, importante na siya nga ma-zero balance kay if napa ni siya valued remaining utangan pa ka. And in banks, when there is still a balance, i-interesan pa na nila, no, until nga maurot na lang imong kwarta. So you have to take note of the payments you have made. So muna yung bantayan po sa calculation sa annuity later on. So again, this is the type of ordinary annuity. Now, these numbers here are referred as the end of each period. No, this is the end of the 6th month or the first period, end of the 12th month or the second period. The zero here is the beginning. So mamani ang imong pag-utang, no, ang start sa imong pag-utang. So which is wala pa man kay gibayad, wala pa po'y interest. So that's why it's 15,000 here, no, the borrowed amount. Pero pag end na after 1 year na, so mga dira na din nagsugod ang pagbayad and pagtubo, no, the interest rates. So that's ordinary annuity. The second type of annuity is the annuity due. If you will observe here, okay, as you can observe here, so this is annuity due. There is a first payment, no? Pag ulam pa lang nimo kwarta, gipangayuan na ka og payment. So ang tawag ana sa uban is advance payment. Just like, diba, mag-board ka, you have payment in advance. Okay, that's a simple analogy. So there are some debts that have to be paid on the time nga mangutang ka. If you ask your parents, for those who have tried to loan housing loans, no, before pag-utang nila, pag-start na nagbayad na sila og, I forget the term, but murag down payment. No. However, the difference is that in annuity due, there is no more payment at the end of the last period. So meaning murag i-advance nimo siya diri sa beginning of the first period. So 0 here is the beginning of the first period. 1 here is the beginning of the second period. So may difference ha. So in annuity due, no, after discussing annuity due, na natay duha ka interpretation when we deal with the periods. So this is annuity due. Nawala man ang letters. Okay, sorry for that. Okay. So when we deal with 1, there are two again interpretations for 1. It can be the end of the first period or the beginning of the second period. 2 is the end of the second period or the beginning of the third period. So when we deal with annuity due, atog yung timan is beginning. So this is the beginning of the first period, beginning of second, beginning of third, fourth, and so on. So which means again, the payment is made every beginning of the period. So mo nang dinhi nagbayad ta sa 0. Now there are some arrangements nga ingon ana. Here's an example of an annuity due. So a loan amount of 35,000 with 5% rate of interest compounded annually. So loan years is 5 years. Number of payments is 1 per year, so meaning annual ang compounding. Then payment type is beginning. So if naaga ni diri ang beginning, if the payment type is beginning, which automatic, that is an annuity due, then you have total number of payments is 5 times 1. So your n times m, so you have here 5. So based on calculations, now you have based on calculation na ang yang bayron nun every end of the year, kay annual man ang compounding, so that's 7699.16. So as you can see here in the period, supposedly we have 5, diba? 5 years good. But since it's annuity due, we are paying at the beginning of each period. So mo nang sa ika-5th nga year, wala na ka, zero balance na ka kay. Dito naman ka nagbayad sa, at the end of the 5th year, wala na ka. No? Wala na kay balance. Kaya dito naman ka nagbalance sa sinugdanan sa kada period, no? At the beginning of each period. Now, if you would take a look at this, wala pa ni siya interest because the period here is at beginning pa man. However, on calculations, na siya interest gi-calculate. But when we present an amortization schedule, so basta beginning, wala pa na siya interest. So that is why naki-payment ka 7699.16, then you have paid that amount, so your balance is 27,300. Kaya nga naman, i-deduct man siya diretso. No, at the beginning pa lang, nakabayad na ka. Nagsugod na kagbayad. So that's why you have the balance, which is 27,300. And same calculations. This is P times I. This is your A. This is principal paid is A minus the interest. No? That's A minus the interest. And the balance here is the previous balance minus the principal paid. So that's annuity due. The third type of annuity due is deferred annuity. So from its word deferred, so if you would check the definition of defer, meaning ano siya pagpaliban in Tagalog or laktawan, no? So naatay consideration din based on this cash flow diagram, there are certain number of periods nga dili ka mabayad. So the start of payment would be sometime later. But take note nga apil gyapon na siya sa imong cash flow diagram. So for this example, so the last end of year nga wala ning bayad will be denoted as your K. So for this example, your K is equal to 2. Okay, then after, kung siya, meaning on the third year, magsugod na ang payment. So diri na nagsugod ang annuity. So for example, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which means your N is equal to 5 and K is equal to 2. So gamito na to na siya later. Basta take note of the concept that in deferred annuity, there are certain periods nga wa kaning bayad. And after that certain period, which is K, so dito na ka magsugod og bayad. So here's an example of deferred annuity. So you have loan years is 5, number of payments per year is 2, meaning semi-annual ang compounding, payment time is the end of every year. Here, if you would check the amortization schedule, nagsugod ang bayad at the end of the 4th period, which means at the end of the 2nd year, so this is the 2nd year, the payment have started. So nagsugod siya sa beginning sa 3rd year, but we're not discussed with the term beginning kay deferred money, so we'll use end. No, meaning nagbayad siya at the end of the 4th year. However, if you would check the amounts, no, na disadvantage si deferred. If you compare it with annuity due, much better si annuity due kay if you would check the total interest, gamay siya interest. If you would check ordinary annuity, medyo dako siya interest. Pero in a deferred annuity, bantayan ninyo, interest is much greater. Why? Because though there are certain periods nga wala ka nagbayad, naagyapon siya interest nga gipatong. So that is deferred annuity. So you have to take note if your parent or kamo in the future would borrow an amount, would loan an amount, narabay usahay nga mayon sila nga dili mo pabayron within 2 years, then on the third year naman magsugod og bayad. So you have to check sa terms and conditions kung na ba interest within that years nga wala mo nagbayad, because that's the concept of deferred annuity. Though payment is done after a certain number of periods, but every compounding period na siya gi-place nga interest. So the borrowed amount is 350,000. Interest rate is 0.7. So our I here is 0.7 divided by 2. So that's 0.35. Okay, so that's 3.5%. So muna yung multiply din which means at the end of the first period na interest nga 12,000, hindi wala pa man kay gibayad, so nadungagan ang imuhang balance until the end of the third period. So tanawa ang imuhang utang is 350, but at the end of the third period it's now 388. So when you paid your borrowed amount, 63,000 per year, per period. So mo na niya nabilin sa imong balance. Then next upon, imbayad na po ka og 63,433.65. Then mo na po din nabilin sa imong balance. You have to take note nga kani si annuity here, dili na nimo siya directly deduct sa imong balance. Again, remember the concept of annuity, compounding. Okay, ang imong balance patungan na po na siya og interest. So na po kay new balance. So, until maabot ka sa zero balance. Okay, now this is calculated based on Excel. So if i-disregard lang ninyo because since the numbers are rounded, so probably na sobra gibayad ang nangutang mga 0.00 something, but that's a very minimal value, negligible value. Basta the goal here is you should have zero balance at the end of the last compounding period. So all in all, ang payment nimo nga nabayad sa imong utang is 444,245.52, which is a total interest of 94,000. So yung unani ang calculations, no? So puhon, or when you apply for a loan, so you check the type of annuity, check the interest, no, sahay kay ang iingon ra ba nila kay katong I, no, si I, which is the rate of interest. Pero kung imo tong i-convert to a nominal rate, and most especially effective rate, no, dako de kay to siya. Now if you want to convert this nominal rate on effective rate, so probably mas dako siya, di ba? So mo na inyong bantayan sa mga rate of interest. The last type of annuity is perpetuity. So perpetual, no? Meaning dili mahuman. Okay? If you heard about the Nobel Prize, kung there is a certain man who has takan kay kwarta din yang gi-donate to charity, then every year, I don't know if nahuman, I think wala may kahumanan siguro si Nobel Prize, nakatag siya og certain amount. Doon ay mga prizes to people which have contributed to the society or the world, no, kana na mga noble nga contribution. So muna si Nobel Prize. So again, going back, na a perpetuity is the annuity nga imo makuha is indefinite, perpetual, no, until infinite. There are some insurance companies nga i-insured ka perpetually, no, but sa akong nakita karon until 100 years ang ilahang ginabuhat kay kung perpetual, basin maabot ka og 200 years malugi ang insurance company. But sa pagkakaron, I have checked, no, ilan lang limit to 100 years. Okay, majority di man yun moabot dito. But kung atong paano na concept, 100 years is dako na gin kay na siya nga war. So almost kung sa human life pa na siya, that's approaching to this value infinity. But again, there are some cases nga naging na siya perpetuity, wherein the annuity, the payment, it might be payment or it might be an inflow. So ang ito ang an income, no, is made equally at certain periods, equal interval, equal interval of periods hangtod sa infinity. So that's perpetuity. And perpetuity is the simplest type of annuity. Ibawa na niyo later, ma-realize ninyo much sayon ra i-calculate si perpetuity compared with the other types of annuity. Okay, now let's go with the formula of each type of annuity. So this is how we solve for an ordinary annuity. So when you have the equal payment, you can get the present worth. Now, if you want to convert this equal payment into a present value, so mo nga to ang formula nga gamiton. That's the annuity times the quantity of 1 minus the quantity of 1 plus I quantity raised to negative n all over I quantity. This portion here is called the uniform series present worth factor. No. And is denoted, most books will use this notation. No. We can read this at find P given A at I% rate of interest in n compounding periods or n interest periods. So this is how we calculate P using A. Now we can also calculate A using P. Now we'll just have to use algebraic manipulation. So you will have to cross multiply this factor here to the other side. So you will have A is equal to P times I over this numerator. So kung mag-cross multiply ka, automatic man na, di ba? Mababali. From numerator to denominator, then denominator to numerator. So you can get this equation, no, A. But you have to take note here nga ang gigamit kay I and N. However, when M is present, when M is not equal to 1, no, kung ang compounding niya kay dili yearly, but say for example monthly, so this exponent here will change to Mn, and your I will change to R over M. Same with this. So remember that. Okay. Next, we can calculate the future amounts or the compound amount or the accumulated amount using this formula. And this is the uniform series compound amount factor. So if you will be calculating for P, that's uniform series present worth factor. So ang kaning F is the compound amount factor and can be notated in this form. So muna siya notation. Finding P given A at I% interest rate in n number of periods. So that's for ordinary annuity. So again, as what I have told you earlier, so we can manipulate the equation so that we can find A. Now depending on the given, if P is given or when F is given. Then for annuity due, okay, sorry for that. So recall this notation here. Now refer to the previous slides. No, for the ordinary annuity, pareho ra na sila, especially kani. Then you just change the exponent to n minus 1. Kaganina sa ordinary annuity is n rato. But for annuity due, that's ang exponent is n minus 1. Okay, and this is how we solve for the future worst. So if you want to solve for A, so again, manipulate lang na ninyo ang atoang equation. For deferred annuity, this is the equation. Mag-iunsama ni siya. Ang gibuhat sa deferred annuity, so that because later on you will have a quiz, no, a challenge. Ang gibuhat ani, if you have the annuity, you convert this first to a present value, no, until this point here. Kay mamani atong K, no, kay diri man ang last period nga wala taning bayad. So until this point here, so you will have a present worth. Then na nakay present worth, say this is P sub 1. So ang mabilin ana is you will have P and P sub 1 where K is equal to 3. Ang process sa pag-convert ani is kani. Mani siya nga part sa itong equation. So that's 8 times this factor. Then, as you can see here, we can actually apply atong kani siya. This is equivalent to the future worth of this one. So we can change it to F, no, para dili ta maglibog. So let's just denote it with F sub 1. So using katong equation nato, if you would recall, converting a future worth to the present worth, no, mo ni ang atong gamit. So that's equivalent to, ambot kung nakadumdum pa mo, that's equivalent to 1 plus I raised to, kay present man itong gipangitan, ning atras man ta, our exponent will be negative K. So you have to take note with this one. If we are dealing with present worth, meaning nagpa-atras ta, the exponents are negative. But if we are dealing with future worth, paabante, the exponent is positive. So mo ni siya nga formula. So i-convert siya until may mo siyang P, no? Kanisa una, then later on this part here. Okay, so this is the equation for deferred annuity. So recall this kaniha. Okay, again, I have told you earlier that the simplest the easiest nga type of annuity is perpetuity, because we can solve it only using this equation. That's A over I. If you will use ordinary annuity, this is actually derived from ordinary annuity. Now you can try to solve it. That's P is equal to A times the quantity of that's 1 minus 1 plus I raised to negative N over all over I. Now take note here that N is approaching infinity. When you change this to a very large value, no, let's say negative 9, 9, 9. If you would recall your calculus, no, when you have a negative exponent, kani siya nga term will become or approximately be equal to 0. No, kung magdako ang iyahang negative exponent, so imo pong value magka approximate po to 0. So we can consider this portion here as 0. So kinsa na lang may mabilin. That's A. Now you have 1 minus 0 is 1 over I. Then we can multiply I to get this. So dali ra kayo kung perpetuity. However, wala kay magamit og perpetuity, so most of our calculation will be based on, or we will be dealing with ordinary annuity due and deferred annuity. Take note of these factors. Single payment compound amount factor, single payment present worth factor, uniform series compound amount factor, uniform series present worth factor, the sinking fund factor, and the capital recovery factor. Now kani, again, kung ang atong gipangita kay CF, dayon ang given kay P, kanitong gamiton. Kung atong gipangita si P, given F, to, mo ni ang atong clue. Gipangita si F, given P, pangita si F, given A, pangita si P, given A is unknown, given F, A is unknown, given P. So these are their equivalent names. So I hope you would remember these. Okay, again, when you try to check some books, moro nilang ihatag, then recall the formula that we have. Di mo lang to ipuli ani nga notation or factor. So these are our examples. So first example, what are the present and accumulated amounts of a 10-year annuity paying 10,000 at the end of each year with interest at 15% compounded annually? As you can see here, now if you would analyze this problem, it's not stated kung ordinary ba, deferred ba, or annuity due ba, or perpetuity ba. But you can analyze it based on the words na gigamit. Now, if you try to check it, this is a 10-year annuity. So, atong N is 10, paying 10,000 at the end of each year. So, nagbayad daw siya 10,000 kada tuig. So, kay kada tuig man, meaning uniform ang yung payment. So, this is our A. And the word here is end of each year. So, kung inyong timanan, every end of the period, na yung uniform pagid siya, to nagsugod pagid siya sa end sa first year, then end na po sa second year. So, that's an ordinary annuity. So, ato din gamiton nga annuity is ordinary annuity. And we have an interest rate of 15% compounded annually. So, dili ni siya I, but R. Remember that this is R. Unless kung iyang giingon nga effective rate. No, that's ER. Now, you have to check or analyze the words used in the sentence. Now, compounding is annual. Therefore, our M is equal to 1. Then, based on this, pwede na dayon na ito ma-solve. I will show you the solution later on, but ato sa nang-analyze ang mga given nga problem. So, again, this is ordinary annuity. The second one, what is the present worth of a 500 annuity starting at the end of the third year and continuing to the end of the fourth year if the annual interest rate is 10%? So, what is the present worth? So, ang gipangita kay present worth of 500 annuity. So, klaro na kayo diri? This is our A. Starting at the end of the third year. So, niyon siya nga after pa. So, ini ka-end na sa ikatulong nga tuig. So, meaning nailaktaw, naidwa ka tuig, wala siya ng bayad. So, unsa man na nato nga topic nga nailaktaw. Now, if you would recall, our types of annuity, this is actually a deferred annuity. No, basta nailaktaw, under siya sa deferred annuity. So, which means, end of the third year, pila kay value sa itong K? Is it third year, 3? Timan-in ninyo nga ang K is wherein end sa last year nga wala nagbayad. Pero kanin nagsugod mo ng bayad sa end of the third year, meaning mo atras tag isa, our K is the second year. No, end sa year nga wala nagbayad. So that's our K. This is not, 3 is not our K, but the year before the third year is our K. And that's 2. No? So, diri na tayo A, dayon ang atong K kay 2. Dayon, yun siya nga continuing to the end of the fourth year, meaning tamang ra sa ika-upat nga tuig. So, kung imong tanawon, pila man kay years sugod sa iyang permiro nga pagbayad. So, third year and the fourth year. So, your N is equal to 2. Now, compounding is annual. Dili ta magproblema kaayo sa M. kay annual man, so M is equal to 1, R is 10%. So please practice analyzing problems, no, because this is one of our engineering students, one of our so mga weakness is analyzing word problems. Now these are the solutions. So again, based on what have we identified, now our A is 10,000, N is 10 years, R is 0.15, that's 15%, compounding is annual. This is the equivalent cash flow diagram. Okay. Kuan man siya, saan siya utang? Now for this case, wala man di siya giingon no nga utang ba siya or dili, but if we use this arrow down, di wala siya ay paying man. So this means this is an utang. Now, so correctly, up kini utang siya ani. Then he will be paying. Okay, if this is in the borrower's viewpoint, so he will be paying. So that's going down. Now remember the inflows and the cash outflows. So going up and going down, going up for inflow, going down for outflows. Kung nakakuha ka kwarta, kung naka-income ka, that's up, inflow. Kung nagbayad ka, that's outflow. Okay, so money. This is the equivalent cash flow. Now, again, we have to look for P and F. So recall the equation, P is equal to A times the quantity or times the factor P given A at I% interest rate in N compounding period. So this is the equivalent formula. And remember, I is equal to R over M. So A here is 10,000. Wala na sulat. Just substitute the values of the known variables, known letters. Yes, that's variables. Then you will get, please check using your calculator. So you have only solved this using Excel. Sometimes Excel has a different rounding. So just check. But generally, this is how money ang iyahang formula. So that's P. Now then, the accumulated amount or the future worth, the money ng accumulated that's future worth. So using this notation, and this is equivalent to this one. Now again, take note, basta present ang hisgutan, negative ang exponent. Basta future ang hisgutan, positive ang exponent. Though there are some formula nga kani ilahang gilahi, ilahang gihimong positive, but for me it's better kay para in this form, para dali ra na ito mailhan kung unsa itong i-calculate present bar future or annuity ba. No? Then, substituting all the known values, you have future worth is 203,037.18, which means ang imuhang gihulman is 50,000 kapin. Ang total imong mabayad is 203,000. Monay gamit sa imuhang compounding, so which means dako ra kay na si 15% no nga interest rate. But that's 10-year man pod. No, later on if you try to check this one, inflation, the inflation affects the value of our money, so which means kung imo i-compare si 100 karon, after 10 years gamay na lang kay ng value sa imong 100. So that's the that's because of inflation. Next, the second problem. Now, again, we identified that's that deferred annuity. We identified that 500 is A, K is 2, N is 2, nominal rate is 10%, compounding is 1. So this is the equivalent cash flow diagram. So you have K is equal to 2. This is the last period nga wala ta nagbayad mo ng mga tong K. Then we have N is equal to 2 kay mao diri man ta nagsugod og bayad. And only for 2 years kaniingon man siya nga at the end of the 4th year ang last payment. So using this notation, now this one is equivalent to this quantity here. This one is equivalent to this quantity here. Which means at the end of the 4th year, or the present equivalent of this annuity is 717.16. No, muna imong gi kung pangtanong ka pila man imong giutang, 717.16 16. Now, then, nabayad kag 500 kada tuig for 2 years. Pero again, remember that na kay interest nga gi-flow diri. So, just check the amortization schedule nga itong example. Your challenge would be to create an amortization schedule later on. Okay. Another example, another set of examples. You have Mr. De La Cruz borrows 100,000 at 10% effective annual interest rate. He must pay back the loan over 10 years with uniform monthly payments due on the first day of each month. What does Mr. De La Cruz pay each month? So, borrowed amount is 100. So, which means this is our P. Then, it says here 10% effective annual interest rate. So, recall this term, effective. So, that's ER. That's not yet R, but ER. Which means, kinanap ni tag R. Now, we have to convert it into an R. Then, you must pay back the loan over 10 years. That's our N. And uniform monthly payment. So, yung uniform monthly payment. So, monthly ang compounding. So, M will be equal to, in 1 year, pila man ka man. So, sa katuig, that's 12. So, M is equal to 12, which is due on the first day of each month. So, sa mani, kung yung first day, that's the beginning of each month. So, we now have an idea. Recall, unsa man ang topic ang magbayad ka sa sinugdanan at the beginning of each period. That's annuity due. No, that's annuity due. So, what does Mr. De La Cruz pay each month? So, kanidi ay example is under annuity due. Next, consider perpetual. Kailan na dayon ta? This is perpetuity. No, consider a perpetual stream of 1,000 per year. So, okay, per year man. So, this is our A. If the interest rate is 10% per year, so this is R per year man. So, M is equal to 1. And how much is this perpetuity worth today? Gipangita diri is P. Dinhi, each month. So, this is A. Here are the solutions. So, for 3, so this is the equivalent cash flow diagram. Now, you have to remember, you have to know how to create a cash flow diagram. You have here an annuity. So, ang gipangayo raman kung sa equivalent niya. We have to convert this annuity into a future amount. These are the present values. Now, take note nga ER pa man, ang effective rate is the exact rate in 1 year. Now, when M is equal to 1, R, I, the values of R, I, and ER are equal. However, when M is not equal to 1, so mananay problema. So, you have to convert it. Therefore, our goal here is to get the nominal rate of interest, no, per month, compound per month. So, to get it, we will use the formula for ER. That's quantity of 1 plus R over M, quantity raised to M, then subtract them all by 1. Substituting all the values, approximately R is 0.095619. Now, ayaw gini ninyo, dapat inyo gining i-take note ang exact value. Now, because we will dapat magini itong gamiton inigamit in the next formula, in the next equation. So your answer might be rounded, can be rounded, but ang inyong gamiton, if gamiton pa niyo siya sa laing equation, so you use the exact value. So that's 9.57%. So ang interest rate din niya ang interest rate din niya per nominal rate of interest is 9.57%. So we will get an I. Now, divide na to 12. That's 0.0797414. Then, kay P man ang gipangita. So using this equation, A is equal to the quantity of 1 plus finding P given A at 8% rate in N minus 1 interest periods. That's equivalent to this. Substitute the values. Not yet. Now, since we are looking for A, si A man itong gipangita, so valida ni siya. So this is, the arrow should be like this one. So just erase that. So the arrow should be this one. Okay. Then using algebraic notation, you have to cross multiply it. You will get this formula for A. Substituting the values, you will have A is equal to 1,287.48. So that's annuity due. For perpetuity, dali ra kayo. That's A over I. So $1,000 divided by R, I. That's R over M. So 0.10 divided by 1. So that's 10,000. So equivalent present worth, no? So when you invest, siguro kung nag-invest kag 10,000, then perpetuity ang manner. So, nakay ma-receive 1,000 kada tuig. But again, companies won't prefer perpetuity kay magansi siya. Siguro kung perpetual mo magbayad, sugot ng company nung inyong giutangan. But for investments, dili na sila musugot og perpetuity. So that's all for today. But before that, I have a challenge for you. So this is engage. You can check it in the engage portion. Now, the answer should be in the engage portion. Now, take note, you have to show the solution. I'll be showing you the answers, but you have to show the solution. For example, show the solution how R sub 1 is calculated, meaning ni si R sub 1 na is, this is the nominal rate of interest when compounding is annual. So because in the problem, si compounding is 20 ang giingon, but the payment is made annually man, yearly man ang amortization, so you have to convert it into annual nga nominal rate. Then show the solution how we get 3018.16. Then so I will be introducing a different amortization schedule. So this is the amortization schedule that we have discussed. So kanila sa akong let's start with this one. When I say show the solution, please show the solution here. Butangin ninyo calculations. Nganong 979.20 na siya. So, in the first row, butangin ninyo din, this is 12,000 times I. No, I is 0.0816 divided by 1. So, that's 12,000 times 0.816. Manang nahimo ang 879. Dayon, gi-minus nimo si kanisya dinhi sumo ng kani, which means ang imo ng ending balance, ang balance nimo at the end of the first period is 12 minus 2,036 sumo ni kanisya. Okay, so yan na ninyo, ipakita ninyo ang tanang calculation. So when I say show the solution, nalagon siya answer daan. So ang inyo na kinahanglan is giunsa siya pag calculate. Another form of amortization schedule is kani. Other prefer this one, no, especially kana mga credit cards, manila ang ginapakita the beginning and the ending balance. So meaning at the beginning of each period, so kung tanaw nimo wala na siya zero. Okay, this is understood. This is the beginning of the first year. This is the beginning of the second year. This is the end of the first year. No, tanaw ninyo same ang beginning ug ang end. Ang end this first year is equal to the beginning of the second year. So, mga itong gikuan ganina sa cash flow diagram. You have the payment and so on. So again, you have to show your solutions or calculations. Next is challenge 1. I want you to answer these two questions. House and lot. So check na lang sa inyong module for challenge. House and lot cost 2 million. So study this. This is the challenges and the quiz are combination of the different annuities. So marang challenges. So you have to research no para maansiran ninyo. So you have challenge 2 and the quiz. So you will not have a time quiz na. So for the final, so muna ninyo ang ansiranan for this topic, annuity. So that would be all, and thank you, and see you on the next discussion.